Good morning, everyone. So we're able to get Braxton on the phone. Good morning, Braxton. Can you hear us okay? Hey, Braxton, can you hear us? Check it. Maybe you can hear us.
Mr. Cotton, are you there?
I am.
Okay.
Good. Okay, very good. I want to welcome everyone here this morning. As you can see, at least the board members have the agenda before them. We have a lot of business to cover today, and I've asked that we dispense with the director's report for that purpose, so your agenda will not have that. Before we actually get started with our business this morning, I'm going to call on Anita Cloud to come and offer a prayer for us, if you will, Miss Anita.
Good morning. As Billy Graham once said, I've read the last page of the Bible, and I'm here to tell you, it's gonna be all right. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the glory of this day. We thank you for life, strength. We ask that you search us for anything that's not like you, Lord, and that you remove it, so we can truly worship you. We ask your blessings on this meeting, and especially your anointing on the board members that are here to serve not only the people, but the state and the country. Give them the power of discernment and bless them as they serve in the way. We ask for your blessings on this agency, individually and collectively. And then, Lord, as we claim the victory, we go it all to you. In the matchless name of Jesus, we pray.
Amen. Thanks, Anita. So any members have any open remarks before we go into our business? If not, we'll continue in stride. The agenda is before you. Each of you got the agenda emailed out to you. So if you look over that, tell me as to whether we should add any additions, subtractions. Otherwise, I'll call for a motion to approve.
Move we approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So our next order of business is the adoption of at least 3 sets of minutes. You'll notice that from our previous board minutes in November the 8th, those minutes were also emailed to you. If there are no corrections, is there a motion we adopt?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none. November the 8th minutes are adopted. Also, there were 2 special meetings, one in November and one in December. We'll take the November meeting first, which was the special call meeting for Spears. Those were also emailed to you. If there are no corrections, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Like sign. Hearing none, those minutes are adopted. And then our third set is a December 5th meeting, which was a special call meeting for Sally. Those were also emailed to you. If there are no additions or corrections, is there a motion we adopt?
Move to adopt
Is there
the minutes of December 5th, 2016.
Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Those minutes are out of the way. I don't have any old business coming before the board this morning, but we have a lot of new business. And we'll get started with at least a procedural vote on an amendment proposed rule change. As you know, the differences in rule change and policy changes is that rule changes must go through the Administrative Procedures Act. So the board will hear from this proposal this morning, will procedurally adopt it if you do, and then it will be set out for 30 days for public comments. And at that time, at our next board meeting, then the board will move as to whether to adopt it as a new rule. That being said, I will call our Director of Legal Services, Quan and Scott, to make that presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Barnard. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Today we present to you proposed rule amendments regarding parole decision guidelines. The guidelines were developed in 1979 and codified in 1980. They apply to all cases that are not a life sentence case. So the board is required under Georgia law to use the guidelines when considering non-life sentence cases. As you know, the recommendation provided by the guidelines is not binding on you. You have the express authority to deviate from that and vote to parole someone at a later time or deny parole altogether. The current guidelines have been in effect since 2007. The national standard is to have these kinds of tools revalidated every 5 years. And so we're at that 5 year, we're more than 5 years, beyond that 5 year mark. And so we had the guidelines revalidated, and we would like to present the changes that have been recommended for us, for you all today to vote on. There are 4 changes, sets of changes in total, 3 of them substantive, 3 groups that are substantive, and the last, me being an English major, are just grammatical changes. So we'll go through the substantive ones first, and any grammatical ones that are included, I'll point those out. So the first change is using a new risk instrument based on the risk of rearrest for a felony within 3 years of a prison release. What's being proposed are new factors, new weights, and a different instrument for males and females that are incarcerated. The risk factors currently are the conviction offense. There are different points for different types of convictions. The number of felony convictions are taken into account, the number of prison episodes, the age at admission into the prison system, the offender's drug or alcohol history, and whether the offender was employed at arrest. What's proposed is that we utilize just whether the conviction, the current conviction is a property crime, as well as whether the number of felony arrests, the number of misdemeanor arrests. We'll keep age at admission. Also consider whether the current prison admission is a revocation of probation or parole, whether there is any violent DR or disciplinary report charge in the Department of Corrections during any incarcerated period for the offender. And for males, whether they are, it's been validated that they are a gang member. As I mentioned earlier, there will be 2 different risk instruments for males and females. All but the validated gang member will apply to both sets of groups. The validated gang members only for the male group when we consider it. So here's what it would look like for males. As you can see, we're proposing dropping the number of felony convictions and picking up current prison conviction being the primary offense being a property crime. That will have a weight of 0.334. If the answer to the question is no, then that'll be a 0, and you will just multiply that by the weight, it would be equal to 0. If it's a yes, then it'd be a 1. Going further, instead of number of prior prison incarcerations, we look at the current prison admission type, the weight being 0.284. If the answer to that question is no, the value is a 0. If it's yes, it's a 1. And then the number of felony arrest events before current prison episode, the weight would be 0.105. And how we would calculate that is multiply the number of prior arrests times the weight from 105, and that would be the score. Continuing on with male inmates, we look at the number of misdemeanor arrest events before the current prison episode, the weight being 0.062. Again, that will also be calculated by multiplying the number of prior arrests times the weight. GDC validated gang member, if it's a no, they get a value of 0. If it's a 1, it would be multiplied by the weight of 0.308. And we would look at the age at current prison admission. The weight would be a negative 0.060. And we would multiply the age in years times that weight, and that would give us a score. And then lastly, second to last, whether they have a violent DR charge during any incarceration period, the weight would be 0.369. If no, then it'd be a 0. Yes, it's a 1. We go on to females, but there's another part. Scott, what is the weight for the validated gang member?
Validated gang member.
0.379 for whether they're validated gang member, and that would be answered in the yes or no as well. That's not reflected on the slide. For females, Again, we'd be adopting a whole new risk instrument separated out by gender. They would have different weights, similar to the factors similar to the males, with the exception of validated gang member. The current prison conviction, primary offense being a property crime, the weight would be 0.443. If no, if the value would be 0. If yes, it would be multiplied by 1. Current prison admission type being a parole, probation, revocation, the weight would be 0.535. If no, the value is 0. If yes, it will be 1 times 0.535. The number of felony arrest events before current prison episode, the weight would be 0.067. Same formula, number of prior arrest times the weight will give you the score. The number of misdemeanor arrest events before current prison episode, the weight would be 0.085. Again, multiplying that times the number of prior arrests will give you the score. Age at current prison admission, the weight here would be negative 0.042. Multiply the age in years times that weight to give us the score. And then the GDC violent DR charge during any incarceration period, the weight for that would be 0.471. If no, you multiply that by 0. If yes, you multiply that by 1. All right, that's our first group of changes. The second group of changes would be to change or assign crime severity levels for certain offenses, change those crime severity levels. For level 8, we would be adding trafficking and sexual or labor servitude where the victim is under 18 years of age and they are coerced or deceived. Also adding trafficking and sexual or labor servitude where the victim is developmentally disabled regardless of age. We would be removing burglary of an unoccupied vacant dwelling. That would just be going to another crime severity level, but removed from the level 8 crime severity level. And this is how it would look in our rules with the additions underlined and the deletions stricken through. With regard to crime severity level 7, we are modifying the age of the victim for pimping and pandering a child. Currently, it's pimping or pandering a child under the age of 18. That's being recommended to change that to under the age of 16. Also adding trafficking and sexual or labor servitude, regardless of age, where there's no coercion or deception, and removing probation revocation based on a level 8 offense. That too will go to another crime severity level, which we will address further in the slides. And that's how it would look in our rules with the strike throughs as well as the additional language that there for the offenses that were just described. Crime severity level 6, we are adding probation revocation based on a level 8 offense. Burglary of an unoccupied or vacant dwelling would drop to a level 6. Pimping or pandering a child age 16 or 17 would be added. Homicide by vehicle, where there's not a DUI or habitual violator, that will be added to that particular crime severity level. And that's how it would look in our board rule in that section. Grammatical correction here, comma.
Do you need a, can you do that without a motion to correct those typographical errors? Can you do those on your own as the board?
I know,
actually
I
act on?
thought that the safer scenario would be just to go ahead and add those while we're amending the rules, proposing the amendments today.
Okay.
I will consult with legal counsel afterwards to see if going through the administrative procedure in the future. Level 5, adding possession of illegal weapon or explosive and criminal street gang activity, and removing identity fraud. Identity fraud will be assigned another crime severity level. This is what it will look like in our board rule, adding possession of illegal weapon or explosive and criminal street gang activity, and deleting identity fraud. Level 4, we're adding possession of a firearm by a convicted felon that's under active supervision, be it parole or probation, and moving identity fraud here. We're removing homicide by vehicle where it's not a DUI or habitual violator. I believe that's being moved up to level 6. So here, those changes are are identified, and then another grammatical change adding over there. Level 3, add possession of a firearm by convicted felon. It's added there. Level 2, add possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime, and remove possession of a legal firearm or explosive. That's been already addressed in another crime severity level higher than level 2. And that's where it's noted. A couple more grammatical changes. We currently have 10 or less counts. The proper grammar is 10 or fewer. So make those recommended changes here. And then add possession of firearm during the commission of crime, and strike possession of illegal firearm or explosive, as that's to be provided for in different constitutions. Any questions thus far? Okay. Third substantive group of changes is to change the risk to reoffend scores. For males, currently, high is 7 or more. The new change would be a range, 0.659934 to 1. The mid-range would be it's currently a 3 to 6. That would go to 0.478295 to 0.659933. And currently, the low risk to reoffend is 2 or less. The recommended change would be to change that to from 0 to 0.478294. For females, same, currently the same as the males, high as 7 or more. We're recommending that it be changed to 0.559960 to 1. The mid-range is currently 3 to 6. The proposal is to change that to 0.391979 to 0.559959. And the low is 2 or less currently. What's recommended today is to change that to from 0 to 0.391978. All this will make sense once you start plugging this information into the guidelines through the computer. The computer's gonna do all the work, so you don't have to worry about doing your examiners don't have to worry about doing all of that. So here's an example of what that would look like at crime severity level 8. As you can see, they will come out with a certain recommendation, 90% if they score high, normally with 7 or more. Now you'll see the high range indicated for men and the high range indicated for women. And it goes through the same throughout that rule. And I just put up another example of level 7 so that you'll see that those are consistent throughout each crime severity level. The risk to reoffend scores do not change throughout in those particular categories. Okay. The fourth substantive change is to change the number of months to serve on the grid for certain crime severity levels. Crime severity level 7, currently the low is 40 to 60 months. Recommendation is to change that to 38 to 54 months. Currently, medium is 48 to 78 months. The recommendation is to change that to 40 to 78 months. High is 60 to 102 months. The recommendation is to change that to 52 to 96 months. Level 6, currently the low is 36 to 52 months. What's recommended is to change that to 34 to 48 months. Medium is 40 to 60 months. Recommendation is to change that to 36 to 60 months. High currently is 52 to 78 months. Recommendation is to change that to 48 to 78 months. For level 5, currently the low is 30 to 40 months. The recommendation is to change that to 32 to 40 months. The mid current is 34 to 52 months. The recommendation is to change that to 34 to 48 months. High currently is 40 to 60 months. Recommendation is to change that to 36 to 60 months. And lastly, just one more grammatical change, add a comma right there. And that concludes the proposed amendments to this safety ordinance. Any questions?
So Joe, I would assume since this is actually a proposal, it could actually be done in one motion. The amendments are actually being made prior to the board's presentation, or does it need to be done in two separate votes? The grammatical corrections and as well as accepting the document.
Well, the question right now is whether or not to proceed with the whole process. These could continue to be amended, obviously.
Well, that's correct, because we may have additional comments which may
Yeah,
cause
so
us
you
to,
get comments from
that
the
may
public.
cause us to amend it therefore even more.
Right, so the final version may be slightly different. The idea is to put everybody on notice that there is the proposed change.
I got you.
This is just the initial adoption.
That's correct.
So any more questions for Quan or for Joe? Then the posture we're in then is procedurally adopting them and then putting these out for public comments over the next 30 days. What is the will of the board? Is there a motion?
Move we adopt as
There's-
recommended.
There's a motion to procedurally adopt. Is there a second one?
Second.
Provisionally adopt. And there is a second. Is there any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, then Rule 475-3-.05 has been provisionally adopted. Now we'll put them out for public comments and we'll look at this again at our next board meeting, determine where we go.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we've now got, I think, 24 changes to our policies. Most of them are, I think the majority of them are pretty much technical changes, but I'll ask for Chris to come and make those presentations to the board. And how are you?
Well, sir,
Looks like you've been busy working through our policy changes, trying to get us up to date.
sir, my bad.
All right, let's get started then with policy number 1.1, which is the field operations manual format and distribution.
Yes, sir. Board policy, field operations, format, manual format and distribution. The term and field operations manual is going to be removed from the policy title as well as the policy itself, and referring to board policy and the field operations manual. Also, throughout this policy, the term investigations compliance will be now updated to the term title of current affairs. In section 1.5.2, the last sentence is also removed to refer to the field operations manual. 1.106.2 field operations has been replaced with the current title of field service. And 1.106.3.3, I'm sorry, that also refers to field operations manual. And three sections, 1.101, 1.104.7, 1.106.3.3, and 1.106.4.7 removed entirely, as they also refer completely to field operations manual. And as a result of changing the sections, any subsequent affected sections will be as a result.
Okay, these policies, for those who may be interested, have been emailed to each board member. They've had an opportunity to take a look at those prior to the board meetings. If there are any questions, now would be a good time to ask. If not, is there a motion that we adopt?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Hearing no nays. Policy 1.100 has been adopted. Thank you. Now we'll look at board policy number 1.104, dealing with internal investigations.
Yes, sir. Regarding public policy, 1.104, all reference to the Office of Investigation Compliance, or the OIC for short, has been changed to Internal Affairs for Office of Affairs. Sections where this replacement occurs are in section 1.15.2, 1.15.4, 1.15.5, 1.16.9.
Pretty straightforward. Any questions? If not, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Our next policy is 1.105, dealing with firearms.
Board policy 1.105, title investigation compliance has been changed to training and policy header. Section 1.16.2, field operations manual reference has been removed, as well as in 1.106.4.2, from and also chapter 1 reference has been removed and replaced with pardons and paroles operations. Also in 1.106.2, the media firearms training was changed from as prescribed in the field operations manual to as prescribed by the director of training.
Any questions from the members? If not, that's the pleasure of the board.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second? Is a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay, now is policy number 1.110, communications and media, public and other agencies.
So board policy 1.110, all that was changed was in 1.105.3, reference to field operation made from 1.210.
It's pretty straightforward.
Move to adopt.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second, all in favor, say aye.
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 Ayes have it. Policy has been adopted. Next board policy is 1.112, employee conduct and social networking post.
Board policy 1.112, in section 1.106.8, determining including prisoners was removed, and 1.106.10.1, the last sentence, which describes the storage of digital data that may be collected as evidence, was removed.
Questions? Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There is a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Been adopted. Next board policy is 1.113, notification and arrest/detention.
Board policy 1.113, in section 1.106.2, a word was added for clarity purposes, and the following section, a time limit was added regarding reporting of certain offenses. It now reads, no later than noon on the first business day following the event is required.
Any questions?
Move to adopt.
There's a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion's been adopted. Policy number 1.115, quality improvements and recommendations.
Board policy 1.115, the title of Director of Training was changed to Director of Internal Affairs in section 1.106.1. And if adopted, this will also require an attendant title change to the form which is referenced in this policy.
Any questions?
Move to adopt.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Ayes have it. Motion carries. Next is 1.1129, response and state emergencies and NIMS.
The board policy 1.129, policy has been moved from under field services to under Director of Parole. And section 1.105.1, we've updated the term parole officers to now be board employees. Section 1.106.1, the authority to deploy board employees to a critical incident will be moved from Director of Field Operations to the Executive Director of his or her designee. We've also removed section 1.106.2 because of reference to the Field Operations Manual. We renumbered all following section as a result. In 1.106.3, maintaining a copy of the Georgia Emergency Operations Plan will be moved from Director of Field Operations to Director of Training.
Okay, any questions?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion carries. Board policy number 2.100, preliminary hearings.
So board policy 2.100, section 1.106.5, first sentence that states preliminary hearing may be delayed or postponed if the cause has been now moved. Upwards to 1.106.1. A word was removed in the following sentence for clarity purposes, and also in section 1.106.10, the term unit was replaced with division when referring to field service. That same section, reference to the field operations manual was updated to the Pardons and Paroles Operations Manual. And the grammatical correction was also made in 1.106.11 for clarification purposes.
Any questions? Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There is a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Ayes have it. Next board policy is 2.107, supervision of out-of-state releasees.
Board policy 2.107, the term field operations is now being replaced with field services. Sections 1.15.3 and 1.106.3, the term of conduct has been moved, so now it only reads progress reports instead of progress of conduct. Reference to field operations manual is being updated to pardons and paroles operations manuals in sections 1.106.1 through 1.106.3.
Questions?
Move to adopt.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next policy is 2.110, rural programs.
So in board policy 2.110 for programs, that recommendation is going to repeal that policy.
There's a repeal offer. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next board policy is 2.111, initial reporting by new releasees.
Board policy 2.111, initial program releases, this recommendation is also to repeal this policy.
It's a repeal motion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye. Motion carries. Next board policy is 2.112, equipment assigned and acquisitions.
Board policy 2.112, the Office of Criminal Investigation Compliance has been updated to simply the Office of Training throughout the policy. Section 1.106.4.1, the description of what is engraved on the badges has now been updated from parole officer to criminal investigator. In addition, other titles, chief investigator, senior criminal investigator, deputy director were all added as a new badge design, has these new titles as options. Minor word changes also made for clarification purposes. In section 1.106.7.1, parole officer was replaced with criminal investigator when describing the embroidered badge that are now on polo shirts. The same term has also replaced agency sealed embroidered when describing the jackets that are worn by the support staff. The color describing the pants that are now issued has been changed from tan to black. The term parole officer embroidery is now replaced with agency seal when describing the agency issued hats. And lastly, in section 1.106.8.1, the term if equipped with the tasers has now been added when referring to a taser holster being issued.
Okay, many of these policies are still carryovers from the division of DCS from Department of State Boards of Pardons and Paroles, which is what we're before here too. Is there a motion to adopt?
Move we adopt.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Policy 2.113, use of force.
Board policy 2.113, in section 1.105.4, the sentence referring to the operations manual regarding submission of use of force report has now been removed as described to the procedure prior to the total DCS.
Questions, or is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next policy is 2.121, additions, modifications, or withdrawals of special conditions of release.
So board policy 2.121, section 1.162, chief parole officer has now been replaced with Department of Community Supervision Coordination Chief.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move to adopt.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Board policy 2.123, Division Director of Field Services.
Board policy 2.123, section 1.15, reference to following paragraph 1.101 has been removed as a reference to the wholesale operations manual. Section 1.106.3, which term field operations manual of the field service division has now been changed to simply parts, patrols, and operations.
Any questions? No, is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Policy number 2.124, responding to violations.
Board policy 2.124, section 1.102.3, the term field staff has now been replaced with new supervision officers.
Is there a motion?
Move we adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Policy number 2.136, parole supervision fee.
And board policy 2.136, the only change was made in section 1.106.2, in which the term parole has now been removed, so it just simply reads officer.
Motion to adopt.
Move to adopt.
There's a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Board policy number 2.139, sharing case information with the Department of Community Supervision.
Board policy 2.139, the recommendation for this policy is to repeal it.
Is there a motion to repeal?
Move to repeal.
There's a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. 2.143, interpreters.
Board policy 2.143, section 1.104.2, we are removing bridging the gap from qualified interpreters.
Any questions?
Move to adopt.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Policy number 3.300, training programs.
Board policy 3.200, throughout this policy, title Director of Training Investigation Compliance was changed simply to Director of Training. In section 1.106.4.1 and the section following that, the employee orientation course has now been changed from 8 hours to its current form of 2 hours. Finally, also in section 1.106.8, the term FOM, stands for Field Operations Manual, is replaced with Army Patrols Operations.
Move to adopt.
There's a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Board policy number 3.301, annual in-service training.
So board policy 3.301, throughout this policy, the title of Director of Training Investigation Compliance was simply shortened to Director of Training. Section 1.105.5 reads legal updates on the board's use of force policy to remove and replace with use of deadly force, de-escalation training, community policing for sworn staff. In the following sentence, it also reads now, for all agency employees, any training must include. That was added for clarity purposes regarding agency required training.
Is there a motion to adopt?
Move we adopt.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, 2 more to go. Board policy 3.306, employee placement in post instructor training.
Board policy 3.306, section 1.106.1.1, term senior parole officers now been replaced with criminal investigator. In section 1.106.5, term training division has been changed to training unit.
Move to adopt.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. And then our final policy change recommendation is policy number 4.100, confidentiality of case information.
So board policy 4.100, the one change made was to the policy header in which field operations have been updated.
A little housekeeping. Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Wow.
We'll move through those pretty fast. As I mentioned earlier, each board member had already had those policies emailed to them. They had an opportunity to review them prior to this morning's meeting. Since we've dispensed with the director's report, I suspect, is there anything any board member has to say before we go to the general comments? This time we will, we'll go to general public comments. I will mention that we will not receive information concerning any specific offender at this time, but if you have comments or questions about a specific offender, we have a call line set up for that, which the number is 404-656-4661. We'll be glad to hear your comments, your questions, or your concerns at that time. But if there's anything that we've discussed in today's meeting that you have comments on, now will be the time to voice those comments. Are there any? Yes, ma'am. Would you identify yourself?
Yes, my name is Daisy.
Daisy?
Yes, sir. And I have a question about the chart change where she talked about validating gang members as far as the males. But when you don't apply that same standard to females, I'm just wondering, will that look discriminatory as far as saying that females are less violent than males? And I don't know what the data is on that, but that concerned me that would, be that distinct.
So, yeah, so restate your concern one more
The
time.
concern is that, when you talk about applying a validated gang member status to incarcerated male felons versus not applying that same measure toward female incarcerated felons, which my understanding is that there's probably just as many female gang members as there are male gang members. I just didn't understand why would there not be one measure applied for the females as well.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's like a two-part comment question thing.
Yeah, the concerns have been noted. We're making a note of that. Do you want to respond to the question? Would you like to investigate that and get back with the filer of the concern?
I believe we have an answer, Scott.
Would you like to go ahead and answer that now, Scott?
Yes, sir, if you will. Yes, ma'am. The data shows that there was nowhere near the amount of validated gang members in the female population versus the male population. I mean, and I tell you that you haven't validated yet, and when we ran all the numbers that we ran, it did not make a difference significantly in anything, so that's why we removed it from the female part.
Do you not think that might open up lawsuits when you talk about discriminating and saying, okay, well, my son was, designated as that, and yet you got this female that they can prove that had the same designation? I mean, does that not? put the
We
board in a-
can't comment on that right now.
Okay.
Y-
And I had one last
Yes, ma'am.
comment. I'm sorry. When you talk about the TPMs now that are being set by the standards that are already in play as far as crime severity levels and risk to reoffend scores, and you've already decided a TPM and you adopt what she's just proposed, when you go back and look, it could actually mean that someone's going to stay incarcerated longer than the TPM that you'd already set when you look at the new standards that are in play. So are we leaning towards longer incarcerations versus trying to get these people back into society and become productive citizens?
So the concern is that the change in this procedure may result in longer incarcerations. Is that
Yes,
your
sir.
concern? Do we wish to answer that at this time, or is there going to need to be more study on that?
I can give you an example.
Hang on just a second.
Scott will answer that.
Yes, ma'am.
We have an answer. Would you like for her to give you an example before you give an answer?
Yes, sir.
You want to give us the example?
Sure, because she talked about how when you go to review their disciplinary record, and if they've had a violent DR, and say, under the standards now, the board didn't necessarily have to consider that violent DR, but under the new standards, and they set a TPM, but under the new standards, now they're having to consider that violent DR, which could very likely extend that TPM that was already set.
Well, man, currently it's a final review process, and the team has already been set. The board actually takes the prior prison conduct into account at that time. If the inmate's got some violent DRs or any DRs at that point, the board actually looks at that case again in terms of that TPM is going to stand or not. The new proposed changes here are not going to take anybody who has a TPM unless they get a new sentence and goes back to the board. At that point, they'll be applied to new stuff.
Yeah, and for those of you who may not know who's answering those questions, he is the Deputy Director of Clemency, Scott Reeves. Any further questions or any further comments on any of the items that were discussed in today's board meeting? Yes, yes.
Just a brief,
Would you identify yourself?
my name is Regina,
Miss Regina, okay.
and basically what she was saying, so the information that goes into an inmate's file Can anyone add information to a unique file prior to him coming up for TPM? For consideration for parole? Or can anyone add information for the board to consider?
Okay.
Or is it just violence or, you know?
Okay, so this is actually just a question in general, not necessarily relative to the adoption of the new guidelines. Would you like to take that question, Scott?
Yes, sir. Will. Yes, ma'am, we'll take any information that comes in, any decision made, we get thousands of pieces of mail a week. We get, a lot of emails that come in each week, and we process each one of them out. And we put it in, make it part of the attendance file, so when any decisions made in the future, that we take into account.
Any further comments on any of the work that the board has done today? Looks like there are no others. Those are very good comments and very good questions. We're glad to be able to answer those for you to the best of our ability. That being said, I think no further business coming before the board this morning. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you much.